Well, hello and welcome to secondstreet.org's discussion series on natural resource development. My name is Colin Craig, and today I'm talking to Shawn Organ. Shawn is a foreman who works up in Fort McMurray, but yet he works or lives out in Nova Scotia. So Shawn, thanks for taking some time to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Why don't we start off at the top, Shawn? What's your background and what's your connection with Fort McMurray? How long have you been working out there?
I've been working in Fort McMurray since 2012. So I was with one company up there doing industrial or civil construction for 2 years, and now I'm in the fluid handling and industrial cleaning business in Fort Mac at the Krill Oil Sands project.
So I guess you probably started just before the real downturn started to take its toll on the patch. Is that right?
Yeah, I was there in 2012. Things were really good there. There was a lot of construction going on. A lot of different projects were in the construction phase. There was a lot of people coming back and forth from Atlantic Canada, and I started my new job in 2014, and everything was good there until the bust happened around the end of 2014, early 2015.
And so what's been the effect on families such as yours and your colleagues? What's been that ramification from sort of the slowing down of the energy sector?
Well, I've been lucky. I've been able to keep my job through the bust, but lots of friends and family, a lot of people that I know in the conventional oil business, the oil rigs, and those type of businesses, a lot of those guys had an extended time off, and it was very hard for them to get through the months with their bills and everything like that.
So is it like the people that you know, has it been sort of what we've been reading in the news, pay cuts, layoffs, reduction in shifts, that kind of thing? Or
Yeah, I've experienced at my company, we'd had to lay people off. We had to go through the pay cuts. A lot of my friends, they got laid off, and a lot of them haven't found work in the oil and gas sector since the beginning of the bust in 2015.
And in your case, I mentioned you're living in Nova Scotia. You're making that commute to Fort McMurray. What does that typically look like? How long are you there for versus back at home?
So right now I work a 10 and 10 schedule. I leave here on the day before my shift starts to commute to Calgary, where I fly to Calgary one day, and the next day I take a charter flight from Calgary to Albion Oil Sands, and I commute to Krill from there.
And how common is that for people in Atlantic Canada to be working out west? I mean, I've certainly heard stories over the years. I think a lot of viewers will have too. What's your observation? Are you seeing a lot of your countrymen from Atlantic Canada making the commute?
Oh yes, I'd say 90% of my friends do. A lot of people in my local community do. I live in Cape Breton. There's a lot of the members of the local 92 union in Fort McMurray. Lots of pipe fitters. A lot of the flights when I leave from Sydney are guys traveling back and forth.
And then, so with all these people that are making that commute, like you're saying, what has been the effect, I'll say sort of positive and negative, on Atlantic Canada from the work that's happening in Fort McMurray?
Well, to start off with the positive, you can definitely tell in Cape Breton when there's a boom going on, or there's lots of building going on in Fort Mac. There's lots of people buying new cars and houses and pools, and you really see that everything is good here. A lot of upswing right now. We have 14% unemployment. That really went up when the bust happened. And yeah, and the negative is we're seeing lots of people laid off that can't find jobs, that they're struggling to try to make it work from day to day, because they have a lot of my friends, a lot of people here have took their training geared towards the oil sands, and now there's not the jobs there that were available when they went through their training or school.
And where, just based on what you're seeing, how do you think we are right now compared with the sort of the worst part of the downturn? It seems, as an outsider and from what I've read in the news, it looks like we've pulled up a little bit. what are you noticing on the ground level?
Uh, there's been steady improvement in the last couple of years. It hasn't came back to the exact same as it was during the boom days. Uh, there's not as much construction because of the deferred oil sands projects and the deferred pipelines. There hasn't been the construction jobs that really pay a lot of money, and they provide flights for people on the East Coast. That was a big thing when I first started there, paid flights, and that has gone by the wayside. So a lot of people on this coast have been hurting ever since the projects have stopped and investment has fled the country.
And a lot of these projects, I mean, we as an organization, we sat down and tallied up a list of all these different natural resource projects in the country that were coming to a halt. And in a lot of cases, these were because of government policies contributing to the problem. So you had in the case of Alberta's oil patch, especially up in Fort McMurray, you had the drop in global oil prices, which governments in Canada did not, they don't control that. But then government policy seemed to really be putting its foot on the neck of the industry, so to speak, by passing a number of different policies, which has spooked investors. Is that, are guys on the ground frustrated when they see that demand for oil globally keeps going up, and yet in Canada their own government policies are kind of putting them out of work and hurting them?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a big topic around the lunch table there when we're on break. I know a lot of my friends in the conventional oil and the oil drilling business, they see a lot of their rigs being moved down to Texas, to the Permian Basin. We're seeing policies put forward by our government, like C69, the carbon tax, just that are scaring off investment. So the jobs that were there available before aren't available now. And I don't know if we'll ever see it again where the oil and gas sector is booming because of these policies that have been put in place. And that's definitely the atmosphere that we're seeing now in Fort Mac. We're seeing everything be deferred. We're seeing companies leave. I know Devon Energy just finished their sale the other day. Leave because the environment isn't amicable for them to invest.
And what's the ultimate effect of those policies on families? Your family, your colleagues, what does it mean to the men and women going through it?
Well, we're not seeing the high-paying jobs like we used to. We're, especially on the East Coast, it's been detrimental to us because we're not seeing the flights. When there's construction, there's a lot of companies that pay for the flights. So we're not seeing that. So if I fly every 10 days, that comes out of my pocket. And with the rollbacks and there's just not as much money as there once was. It's still a good living, don't get me wrong, but it's not as good as it once was.
And when we chatted on the phone briefly, you'd mentioned that there's a lot of spin-off effects when the patch is doing well, guys and gals that are working there are coming home and they're buying other things. Is there sort of a recognition in, say, Nova Scotia's broader economy about how it's affected by what's going on with the energy sector out west?
Oh, yeah, definitely. My wife, she sells pools and hot tubs, and they can definitely see an upswing in business when the oil patch is booming because a lot of guys, they come home and they buy the pools, or the girls, they come home and buy the pools, the new cars, the houses. Just you can definitely see there's a lot more money around, and it's definitely a positive impact on our local economy that doesn't really have the industry here like we used to. So that's a great help when the oil patch is booming for sure.
Okay. Well, Shawn, I certainly hope your family gets through everything, and
I've been very lucky.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've done fairly well so far in avoiding some of the dramatic cuts that others have felt. So, I mean, that's good to hear, and I hope that you continue to eke it out. Thank you. Thanks for taking a few minutes to share your feedback with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, and if anyone would like to know more about our research, they can do so at secondstreet.org.